reflected in social enterprise, right? You go out, you say, I'm doing good because I'm working with poor people and they're buying my product. But lots of poor people are buying, lots of things that don't necessarily provide development. And so one of the things I invite you to think about is how to actually measure development. Another project I was working on was with Arab and eye hospitals. I had spent time in Tamil Nadu and Pondicherry, and what they had asked my research group when I was in university for was a way to enable video consultations between doctors and patients in the village. And so what we ended up doing was setting up long-distance wireless networks between the village and the hospital so they could directly communicate between. So a doctor might be able to show up on a video and see the patient and look at what was actually going on in their eyes. This was entirely a research project from the perspective of University of California, right? And Arabs wanted to try this, and they were excited about this because this is something where the solution would be an order of magnitude cheaper than the on-the-market solution. And for the first year of this, it required a lot of management, of contacting all of the people all the people in Pondicherry to make sure all of the networks were staying up. It even required flying back to fix things over and over again. And from a financial perspective, that's not sustainable. But what made it work was that as much time was invested in supporting this actual system, they also spent time actually training local IT engineers to maintain the system and actually install new connections. And so a partnership with another organization, Julep IT, enabled Aravind to actually take the solution that we developed and continue to deploy it without depending on the university. So this is another model of sustainability from a research perspective. It's handing it over to your partner and giving them the resources they need to deploy it more widely, to replicate the solution. So sustainable business and research, how can we work together? I've given a couple of different examples of the types of research that's done and the way that research can kind of become sustainable. One model is you can have an idea and you try it out, and then you just jump out there, right? And you start your own NGOs. Another way that happens is we partner with organizations who then take up that innovation and integrate it into their own. They support it on their own. And I want to invite you to work with Microsoft and to work with other research organizations to try innovating, right? To take that risk and to build these things. But at the same time, realizing that it's important to be aware of the context and people, right? And to think about this process of deploying pilots and then later on scaling up. And I think the two biggest factors I think that affect the success of these kinds of projects are, availability of champions to go out and do this work. So Ricken and Sean and everybody else that are a critical part of making those organizations what they are today, right? And if there is no innovation champion, both on both partners' end, then the projects, even if they're good, can flounder in the water. The other thing I encourage is iteration, and this comes a little bit from software methodology, but being willing to take an idea, throw it out there, and find out that there's things that are wrong, and being flexible enough to adjust to what you're learning about the user context and your target market. And I think it's that flexibility that ultimately will enable people to succeed. So finally, I'm seeking collaborators and I'm seeking interns. So please contact me if you have any potential needs. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Melissa, for the wonderful presentation. We're going to have some time at the end for the audience to ask questions. Please don't assume that I'm rushing through the speakers and then where are the questions going to be. So we will have we'll have the opportunity to have some questions at the end. Thank you, Melissa, once again. Next, very important. Next, I have with me here Vishnu Swaminathan, country representative for Ashoka Innovators for Public in India. While Vishnu sets up the presentation, I'm going to read through his profile, very elaborately done. He has a lot of experience. Ashoka is a global association of world of leading social entrepreneurs, men and women, with system-changing solutions for world's most urgent social problems. So the definition of what social entrepreneurs is. Since 1981, Ashoka has elected 3,000 social entrepreneurs as fellows, more than any other organization in the world, providing them with living stipends, professional support, and access to global network of peers in more than 70 countries. In 10 years of election, 93% of the fellows' original ideas are being replicated and made use of, which is very interesting. Vishnu leads Ashoka India's effort in creating to create an everyone change maker world. I don't know what that is. One where each person has skills, drive, resources to push forward solutions to pressing social and environmental problems. All right. So that's the picture. The program has reached 6 cities, catalyzing out 10,000 homes in a short period of 2 years. I'll let Vishnu speak about more on that.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. Before I start, everybody knows Ashoka as a social entrepreneur organization. But I'm going to talk to you slightly different today about sustainable business and what Ashoka is doing to kind of show new business models which can kind of drive social change. So, I'm going to specifically talk about housing, but we also have work going on in nutrition and other areas as well. So we are not actually the organization which does projects individually on the ground, but we kind of take a 30,000 feet view of the issues and say that, oh my God, housing, there is a problem here, what can we do to kind of enable housing, but not being known as a housing organization. Ashoka will never be a housing organization or a nutrition organization. That's the challenge we have. I'm going to talk to you about that. So this is basically a client, her name is Tulsi, she's from Ahmedabad. She works as a tea lady in an NGO. She makes tea for everybody in the office. It's very important to understand this customer because her husband actually drives an auto rickshaw. So now I really like to call them the invisibles of the city. The simple reason is we all need their services day in and day out. If the maid doesn't come in the morning, the blood pressure shoots up. If the driver doesn't come, we're kind of upset. You know, if the cleaner doesn't come and clean the office, we're upset. But honestly, none of us really know where they live and how they live. You know, because simply we take them for granted. And that's the reason we call them the invisibles of the city. We really need them every day, but they remain invisible, right? Mumbai is a classic example, right? We have the world's richest home, next to it we have the slums, and it's amazing. It's because nobody knows where people come from, where do they live, etc. So that's the group of people we try to target upon, and I'll come to that in a minute. Now, thanks to Dr. Pralab, we all know the bottom of the pyramid. We all know that the bottom of the pyramid is a huge opportunity. 4 billion people around the world are classified as bottom of the pyramid. Now, when we started working in this 4 years ago, we scratched our head and said, you know what? The bottom of the pyramid is not just one homogeneous group of people. We can't call the bottom of the pyramid as urban poor and let them be there. It's not true. When we start looking at it, we understand that like the middle class, where all of us probably would belong to the middle class, but we have ranges of middle class. All of us earn different kinds of money. The same way, the bottom of the pyramid, there are flavors of the middle class. There are flavors of people who earn different kinds of income. Now, that's why I call it the pyramid within the bottom of the pyramid. Because there is really 3 distinct groups of people who are in the bottom of the pyramid. It's very important to understand this if you are looking at serving anybody in the bottom of the pyramid. Now, the base, the bottom of the pyramid is simply the largest, right? This includes all the people who are migrating from the urban areas, right? Sorry, from the rural areas to the urban areas. They've just moved in. they don't have a home, they're kind of, loading up the slums, they're living in relatives' places, there's no place to live at all. That's the group of people who need a different kind of housing solution or a different kind of a nutrition solution, which is completely subsidized by the government. So in housing cases, they need transitional housing. And there is another group of people who are living in the slums for more than 10 years, right? They have moved 10 years ago, but still they are living in the slums. They earn enough money, but they cannot move out of the slum. And the third group of people, the top of the bottom of the pyramid, a small group, are really people who are capable of even moving to the middle class. And they will move to the middle class. Now one question, why are they all called bottom of the pyramid? What is that one common thing across all of this group of people is simply, nobody can prove their income. You go talk to anybody, that's why the first example is extremely important, auto rickshaw drivers. My kind of calculation says, for every 50 population, there is one auto rickshaw flying. The whole country, right? Meaning the rural areas it may be less, but the cities, for every 50 there is one auto rickshaw. Now, that guy in Bangalore, for example, an auto rickshaw driver would earn anything between 10 to 12,000 rupees as a monthly income alone. And then his wife is a maid, and probably one of his sons is also earning. They all make enough money, but unfortunately there is no way to prove. So no mortgage, no income tax, informal income, right? And fascinating, I came to know this very recently, and I should have done it earlier, 3% of Indians pay income tax. So only 3% are actually eligible for a mortgage. 97% of Indians cannot even get a mortgage, right? And we don't think about it. That's why it's extremely important to understand. So we decided to work on that small group of people who are wanting to move into middle class. That's the new housing model we started piloting. Now, before I get here, the most interesting thing to understand is that they do not rely on grants. They do not want a grant because they have money, right? The auto rickshaw driver's wife saves by gold. She doesn't have a bank account, but she buys gold, right? With saving small little bits of money, she buys gold. So in Pune, I was talking to an auto rickshaw driver's wife. She said, "Yeah, hoga saab, please 40 gram of gold." That's meaning now the gold is really shot up, but this was a couple of years ago. But 30-40 grams of gold is normal for them. They really save that kind of money because they don't know what else to do, right? Now that is what they will probably invest to buy a home because home is very important for them. Now, so we decided to work on a sub 10 lakhs house. What we can do for that is between 220 to 550 square feet, urban India, informal sector, and most importantly, not dependent on a grant. So it's completely market based. It's extremely important to understand why that is important, because if you want to scale, you need that kind of a model where people will do it automatically. So how did we do it? We created a model called hybrid value chains, where we said, who knows the customer? Who knows the auto rickshaw drivers? The developer does not know. Developer has never dealt with these guys, right? Who knows these guys? Is the auto rickshaw union, is the NGOs, is those kind of organizations who deals with them day in and day out. So we brought a partnership between the not-for-profits and the for-profit developers to work together. The biggest challenge, who's going to give them a mortgage? ICICIs and the SBIs refuse to work with them because they are high-risk customers. They're really not going to be able to evaluate their income. But luckily, we had 3 institutions 5 years ago who started working on informal sector. Today we have 17. We didn't do anything. Automatically it's growing. That shows the market is opening up. People are understanding this huge market opportunity. So we have people who understand these customers and willing to give a loan to them. So what are we doing is, we're actually doing this. We're actually building homes which are apartments, ground plus 3 without an elevator. And it's interesting why I show this 2 differences, because again I go back to Melissa's comment, understanding the customer and understanding what their needs are extremely important. The one here is 244, the other one is 262. The difference is actually 18 square feet. We don't even care what 18 square feet means for our homes. But for them, every square feet matters because 4 people sleep comfortably in a living room, but only 2 can sleep in this. It's a very simple thing, but it's extremely important for them because 4 to 5 people will still continue to live. Another question we had a question, whether do we provide space for a refrigerator or not? Now it may sound very simple, right? But why do they need a refrigerator? They don't own one. But 98% of the women said we want a home layout with a refrigerator space. Why? Aspirations. They are going to buy a refrigerator as soon as they buy a home. Do you provide space for it? Space is 6 square feet. That is a different story. But it's not affordable housing for our standards, sub 10 lakhs. So we said, anybody can do affordable housing, but what is the measure? How does the customer know that? So we're creating India's first affordable housing standards and a rating system. So that people can get rated, the projects can get rated. And the last one is extremely important because how do we make sure that these guys can actually get a loan? Now imagine we have in Bangalore, the new housing need for that top of the bottom of the pyramid is 2 lakh homes. 2 lakh homes in Bangalore, right? 2 lakh customers are ready, probably more than that. We have probably 10 lakh customers, but 2 lakh would be eligible. But the challenge for the mortgage companies is who is eligible and who is not eligible. So we are creating the platform, it's a software platform which will enable to pre-approve credit for them. Because pre-approval does not exist for mortgage today, we are creating that platform to do that. So again, what we are doing is, we are moving from project level work into system change and kind of taking a much bigger how do we cross framework change? How do we move into a situation where things happen automatically? That's Ashoka's interest. So at the end of the day, what is extremely important is not to consider this as housing for the poor. It's not providing cheap housing. It's high quality small spaces. And that's the same thing true for any. Probably Alex will agree with me. It's not about providing a cheap solar panel. It's about providing a high quality solar panel which will last even longer. Which is proven multiple times again and again, right? So it's about having the consciousness of quality. It's extremely important. And again, high design quotient is extremely important. And I summarize by saying it's not about 4 walls and a roof. It's really about providing high quality space for these guys. And because this is probably the only home they'll buy. And just to tell you an example, we make sure the women are owners of the home. Why? Because only then the mortgages will come on time. Thank you very much.
Vishnu, I did learn that depending on brands is not sustainable. That's interesting. So we will have some questions at the end for Vishnu as well. Let me just now call upon Maumita Sharma. She's from the Isha Foundation. She is an based Isha Foundation which supports inspiring projects for society and environment based on the ideals of global harmony and progress. It has gained worldwide recognition and reflects the Isha Foundation's social consultative status with the Council of the United Nations. Please join us here. I'll call on the next speaker, Krishna Kumar, and while I'll organize the presentation. Krishna, you have a presentation, right? So that laptop needs to connect it. I hope we can give that a try. Technology is challenging, and technology is not sustainable. That's what I found. Krishna Kumar is an entrepreneur, so I'm very happy to have a co-entrepreneur here with me. He's from Cropin Technology, a company which. Yeah, you can try that. So Windows PCs you might be able to switch over from one to the other. If it's a Mac, then there is a bigger challenge for us. Krishna Kumar has 6 years of rich experience in working with global companies like GE. He has worked on the best of breed technology processes in India and US. Krishna holds a bachelor's degree in instrumentation and electronics engineering. He was selected for the 2-year information management leadership program at GE and has hands-on experience in business strategy, mergers and acquisitions, new business development and financing. Currently, he owns his own venture, Cropin Technologies, in agriculture space. He's going to talk about that to us. His business has a series of customers like PepsiCo, Barley Food, Field Fresh, HDFC, Olam International. So that's a long list of customers. I think Krishna Kumar has been recognized by CNBC, Young Turks, Times of India, Economic Times, and Fortune in India. let me hand over to Krishna to speak about. I hope the presentation is coming live.
Good afternoon. We are called, we call ourselves Talking Technology, and we say that we simplify the farm management. Before that, I'll start to mention electric overview. I was working with GE and I was working on various technologies like hydrogen vehicles or nuclear reactors for their acquisition, or sometimes also on the IT sector. But I had always close to agriculture because my family comes from there, and I've seen the challenges. I was in Bangalore and I heard that Chikbalapur people throw tomato on the road because we are not able to pay them 50 paise per kg. And they either throw the tomato on the road or they left the tomato in their field because the cutting of tomato, the labor cost was also not because of that the money they are getting from the vendors. But I don't remember that in Bangalore I even got tomato letters and everything. So there was something goofy. I thought either the right information is not with the right people at the right time, or there is something goofy in the whole thing, or maybe we have not put the right technology in there. Agriculture always have been a different sector when we talk about the technology. Go to the next slide. Before I go here, I'll try to give you a snapshot. If I go by the maths of World Bank, every 30 minutes of farmer in society, if you want to know the average debt, is carrying 40,000. So Saturdays, because of 40,000 you have to pay back to the money lender out of the bank is coming to suicide. Around 2 lakh people have suicide till now from 1997. The reason, if you go deep down, the reason is crop failure. The major reason is the crop failure. They are not able to get the return from their crop. So, seeing all this scenario, we thought let's build something, some technology. Let's bring some technology to agriculture which really has a meaning to us. We have been listening about putting IT or ICT technology in the farming, but we are not seeing output because we have not put the heart into it. Because most of the people think that we cannot make money out of putting technology in agriculture. Because farmers are not able to pay for that. So, we keeping that in mind, we created a problem technology which will provide a very low cost and effective technology for the farmers. And we are bridging the gap, information asymmetry